I will tell you this right now. I would absolutely die. If this were to change the world and get rid of and pornography and all of the 8 arms of this octopus that has to be destroyed, the only way you can destroy is...
For years, Jim Caviezel has been standing on the periphery of the Hollywood spotlight, consistently pointing a finger at a machine he describes as a deeply entrenched structure of power and silence. He didn't just speak about isolated incidents, he spoke about an 8-armed octopus, a systemic entity where cutting off one limb does nothing to stop the creature. It is a structure, he argues, that is masterfully designed to protect its own, bury inconvenient truths, and systematically silence anyone who dares to bring them into the light. For a long time, he was mocked, blacklisted, and dismissed by the mainstream as a man who had lost his grip on reality. But in recent times, the public has begun to look at the same landscape through a different lens, and the question is no longer just about one actor's claims. It's about whether those claims have been hitting closer to the truth than anyone wanted to admit. Caviezel's transition from a respected A-list actor, the man who portrayed one of the most significant figures in human history, to an industry outcast began in earnest when he decided to pull the veil back on a dark, hidden reality. His involvement in Sound of Freedom wasn't just a role. He has claimed that it was an eye-opening confrontation with a grim industry secret. During production, he described witnessing the exploitation of the vulnerable, a reality he claims was happening in broad daylight, yet remained entirely absent from the mainstream narrative. When he brought his findings to the table, the expected industry support for such a critical story was nowhere to be found. Instead, the doors closed. Studios warned that association with the project could be a career-ending move. The message was loud and clear. Do not make this, do not distribute this, and most importantly, do not talk about this.
I asked them about that one particular part where everybody's talking, and they all cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
Wow.
Epstein Island isn't the only island out.
This pushback brings us to the core of Caviezel's warnings. He argues that Hollywood functions as a machine built specifically to act as a gatekeeper. It is a system where the most influential figures are the very ones who validate those around them, using their immense platforms to curate a sense of trust while remaining deafeningly silent on the issues that actually threaten the status quo. We have seen this exact pattern repeat across decades. Stories about high-profile misconduct, abuse, and systemic exploitation are often known within the industry for years, only to be suppressed until the weight of the evidence makes it impossible to continue the charade. Then, the industry performs a choreographed temporary shock, fires the most obvious targets, and effectively resets the machine, ensuring the underlying structure remains untouched. Perhaps no story illustrates this shift in public perception more clearly than the rapid descent of Ellen DeGeneres. For a generation, she held the title of America's Sweetheart, a host who built her entire brand on a foundation of kindness and light. That image began to show cracks, not because of some outside attack, but through the overwhelming voices of those who worked for her. A flood of allegations regarding a toxic workplace, intimidation, and fear painted a picture that was diametrically opposed to the persona she projected on camera. It was a massive public unraveling that involved internal investigations and the firing of high-level executive producers. Yet, even as her reputation faltered, something even more mysterious and far-reaching was occurring in the shadows.
It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I had a lot of experience from the Passion of the Christ, and we were humiliated. We were taken through the ringer in the media. This was before Trump came out and said it was, the lying media and the fake news. And they were fake news back when we were doing that, but we had to fight for everything we had.
When the Department of Justice released a fresh batch of documents connected to the Epstein case, the internet did not just look at the list of names, it began to aggressively connect the dots. In the digital age, speculation travels faster than any official report, and Ellen suddenly found herself at the heart of an intense viral storm. While none of the criminal allegations leveled against her by online commentators have been proven, the timing of her personal life decisions became the focal point for a public that was already deeply suspicious of the Hollywood elite. Almost immediately following the intense focus on the Epstein files, Ellen quietly sold her multi-million-dollar California mansion and vanished from the American landscape, settling into a quiet life in rural England. To many, this wasn't just a move for privacy, it was a tactical retreat. Why leave the country exactly when the conversation around these documents reached its boiling point? Why sell everything and go completely silent? For those who believe in the existence of the octopus that Caviezel described, this looked like the classic Hollywood survival maneuver. When the spotlight gets too bright, you simply exit the stage. This silence, her departure, her lack of public defense, and the total withdrawal from the industry she once dominated speaks volumes. It has only deepened the suspicion that there is a line that the Hollywood elite are simply not allowed to cross. And when they reach it, they are expected to step out of the frame. This becomes even more chilling when you consider the reaction of other industry giants. Late-night hosts, media figures, and powerful producers who typically never miss an opportunity to weigh in on every social and political scandal have been noticeably quiet regarding the Epstein files and the speculations surrounding their peers. They have discussed Weinstein, they have discussed R. Kelly. Yet when it comes to the deep web of power linked to Epstein and the specific questions surrounding figures like Ellen, there is a wall of silence. This pattern of selective outrage is exactly what Caviezel warned about years ago. It confirms that the media does not just report on what is happening, it carefully curates what the public is allowed to see and which stories are permitted to gain momentum. The tragedy of Stephen Twitch Boss, the beloved DJ of Ellen's show, remains a haunting footnote in this timeline. While there is no verified evidence connecting his passing to the broader scandals involving the show's leadership, his death occurred right in the middle of this era of extreme tension. His sudden loss added a layer of profound sadness to an already toxic environment, and the public has not forgotten the questions that were left unanswered. When someone so central to such a high-profile show dies under such circumstances, the vacuum of information is quickly filled by rumors, and the failure of the institution to provide transparency only serves to fuel the public's distrust of the entire Hollywood ecosystem. When we look back at the history of these scandals, we realize that the machine is rarely broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is designed to protect the powerful, ensure the narrative stays under control, and dismiss any early whistleblowers as conspiracy theorists until the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Caviezel was one of those early voices, and his persistence in the face of career suicide has forced a reckoning that the industry cannot easily brush aside. The public is no longer content to wait for the official story. They are doing the work of investigating, cross-referencing, and demanding answers that were previously off-limits. We are seeing the potential beginning of a broader, deeper cultural shift. The question is no longer just about what happened on a private island or what went on behind the scenes of a talk show. It is about the nature of the institutions we have trusted to inform us. The 8-armed octopus is still moving, but the audience is no longer looking away. They are watching the gears turn. They are identifying the patterns of silence, and they are starting to connect the dots in ways that were never intended. The story is far from over, and the next wave of revelations will be the ultimate test of the industry's ability to survive in an era where it can no longer control the light. As we look at these connections, the most unsettling question remains. What does this level of silence actually tell us? Is it simple self-preservation, or is it a sign of complicity in something much larger than we ever imagined? Jim Caviezel chose to risk everything to speak his mind, while others in his position chose to say absolutely nothing. This divergence in behavior is not accidental. It reveals everything you need to know about where the true power lies. We have to wonder, is the machinery finally being exposed? Or is it just beginning to shift its grip? What do you think the silence from the top of the industry actually signifies to the average viewer? And does it change how you perceive the celebrities who have suddenly disappeared from the public eye? Leave a comment below and let's discuss what happens when the curtain finally falls.